Oh, g'day everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap brought to you by Crowcast. Of course, round 16 saw us bounce back off the bye with a solid win over the Tigers. And without any further ado, let's crack straight in and talk about it, shall we? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my cohort of panelists looking resplendent there, especially Big Man, probably the best looking one of the lot because we can't see him. How are you, mate, up there in FNQ?
Very well. It was a good watch today. A little sloppy at times, but we got motoring that second half, and it was good to see some of the young fellas really drive the win today, including one certain wingman that I think I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yes, we might open the drapes on that one soon. Mr. Brown, how are you, sir?
Good, mate. Yeah, really happy with the win.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty happy we're up into third spot, and we've increased that percentage a bit more, which might be handy come finals.
Yeah, 100%. Bit of a logjam now on the ladder, as we'll see later on. And, of course, the inimitable star of the show, Macca. How are you, mate?
No, I'm good, mate. It was first quarter was a little bit frustrating. We were a little bit rusty, but I think that's to be expected after a bye. I noticed most of the teams that played had a bye, didn't start off too well. But, gradually we got our game going together. It was overall, I mean, we didn't beat a great team, but they tried. But overall, I was pretty happy in the sense that I was hoping that we'd win by about 10 goals. We did slightly better than that. So I guess we've got to be happy with that. And as Big Man was alluding to, there's some good individuals to talk about.
I mean, I just asked you how you were. I didn't ask for a full rundown, but...
Do you want to run down on my health or something, Steve?
No, just a simple, I'm good, mate. Thanks. Nice to see you again.
Fantastic to see you, Fee.
That's a lie too. Look, it's great to have so many in the audience in Discord. We've got a cast of thousands there. So if you do want to have your say, don't forget we're live and interactive. So stick your hand up and we will have you on board for a chat. Also, thanks to everyone who's joined us on YouTube, people shuffling in there nicely. Don't forget the chat is live there too and streamed to both platforms. So if you do want to inject yourself into the conversation, please feel free to utilise the live chat function on YouTube. All right, Macca, seeing you're champing at the bit, I'll start with you. Seemed to me that... we came in with a particular style of play in mind. I don't know whether it was necessarily designed specifically for Richmond or whether it was just we decided that it was a good game to try a certain game plan. It looked very similar to our first couple of rounds in terms of our using the ball by foot and getting the ball on the outside. How do you see that?
Yeah, I think you're right. But I thought that with a slight modification and with moving what's his name, Max McElhaney to centre half forward to Stan Vlosten, I think that was that was something different. In other words, we put a defensive factor into our forward line to stop the clearances, and when often you kick to the big men and the ball comes to ground and Boston, for example, is a very good overhead mark, and it was. I thought it turned out to be a marvellous move because I know Boston got a few kicks, but not without had a lot of pressure on his kicks. But on top of that, with Max kicking 3 goals, I think we did change our game slightly, and I thought we went a lot around the wings, which are a lot more than usual. And when you've got a wingman that's really winning his spot, that makes it a lot easier. But well, I thought at the times we just sort of zigzagged until we got the opportunity. But I thought we started off rusty and we just kept fine tuning the game as it went along. And overall, I was quite happy with the way we played it in, and with the style of play we played in was pretty good. And it was just a refinement of what we normally play.
Yeah, Brownie, apart from the first quarter where our forward 50 entries were pretty scrappy and we weren't getting a lot of value for the amount of ball that we had, it was pretty efficient, and as the stats will show when we run through those a little bit later, was very much a game of keepings off. We seemed to really want to have ball security and not turn it over too much.
Yeah, I think that was a real clear focus. It was obvious that the way we were chipping it, we go across from one side, then back to the other, and it was just about just slowly moving up the field until we could find an open space. And unlike the first quarter, I think the next 3 quarters we were able to find some of the forwards, open the forward line up a bit. They hit up Thilthorpe a few times, Fogarty, and it worked pretty well. I still would have liked to see us take a little. Sometimes there were opportunities if they took the first kick to go down the guts, and they were a little bit reluctant to take the chance, so they kept taking the going backwards or across. But it was good that the game plan worked against that side. It might not work against a better side.
Yeah, big man, that's an interesting point that Brownie raises, because that kind of was going through my head as the game went on. We were making the ground quite wide this week, something we haven't done for a while. We're switching the ball around and trying to spread their defence, which I thought was good. But I feel like even though we were getting disposals off fairly quickly, we weren't making a lot of ground often, and at times it allowed Richmond to get behind the ball. And I just wonder whether it's quite an easy sort of transition to counter when you're a better side.
Yeah, it was very measured, wasn't it? There wasn't a whole lot of ballistic football, and that was clearly a plan. I don't know if it was because of the wider ground or Nick's trying something new or what may it be, but that was easily the most chipping around we've done across half-back. I think I've seen us do for a long time.
Well, since probably the first 2-3 rounds. That was our mode in the first couple of rounds, and then like against St Kilda and North, we played that way, and then after the Geelong game, we kind of shut up shop a bit.
Yeah, I think it's also because one area we actually got beaten in was in the centre a bit. It felt like the reason why we got so much ball off half-back is we generally conceded the centre bounce, but then Richmond would turn it over, and then we rebounded off half-back. But we didn't really, go gung-ho too much as I probably would have liked at times. And as you said, it allowed numbers to flood back a bit. Luckily, Thilthorpe is such a good mark that it didn't matter sometimes. But no, we weren't able to isolate our forwards quite as much as I would have liked. And the best way to isolate forwards is quick ball movement. At the same time, I thought our ball use, as you mentioned, aside from that first quarter and maybe parts of the second quarter early on, I thought our ball movement was pretty efficient. And yeah, I think even though we had way more touches than Richmond, we had actually had quite a lot less turnovers. So, and that's partly because obviously Richmond aren't the most highly skilled team. But at the same time, I thought we're actually pretty measured. We didn't make too many blues by foot. Sorry. It was interesting. It was just it was a different way for us to play. I don't know if it suits us going forward. I think I'd like to take more advantage of our tools and our forward line in general. And the best way to do that is speed on the ball. But it was interesting. I think it was. I don't know if you guys remember, but we played like that a bit against Collingwood at the MCG early on in Nick's career. I think it might have been round 2002. 2022, I mean, where we just chipped it around a lot. It didn't work that day, but it did work today, and I think partly is because we've got a lot more skilled ball users in the team now.
You've got amazing memory, mate. I can't remember my name half the time. You're going back through
It was Rochelle's second game, and I remember we Crouch and Co were just chipping it around. It did not work. But obviously today it worked a lot better, albeit against lesser opposition.
That is amazing, big man.
Yeah. Mac is. Oh no, I won't say that. Yeah. Look, I mean, my impression was that we definitely came in with it to play that style of game, and when we look at the stats in a sec, you'll see that the stats reflected were very similar to the type of contested versus uncontested ball that we were running within the first 3 or 4 rounds. So I don't mind it, but I just don't know. It's a mode of play that I don't know is sustainable for 4 quarters, but it was effective, and I felt like we executed it well, really, aside from the first quarter where we couldn't hit a target inside 50. So, I think probably from my perspective, the most pleasing thing or the best thing to watch was the emergence of young Mr. Curtin, who just had a fantastic game, and he's really growing in stature, and his marking ability across that wing is just such a bonus, Brownie, in terms of our transition. He's almost become a bit of a bailout. Blokes just are happy to drop it on his head, and he doesn't let them down.
Yeah, he's considering how few games he's played, his marking's been unbelievable, and I think in the last month he's really just got that confidence, and he's just gone ahead in leaps and bounds. But I thought his disposal today was elite too. Whether it's kicking at goal or kicking into the forward 50, he very rarely doesn't hit his target, and he's just got such a beautiful style about him. He's scary to think that he could be, how much better he could get yet.
Yeah, obviously there are a couple of others, and we'll go through those. There was probably 1 or 2 contentious things just to get out of the way. Obviously, first of all, the selection of Lockie Murphy again, I just thought was a wasted opportunity, and then to add salt to that wound, the fact that we subbed Rash out, Macca, after not giving him a CBA for Lockie, and then having Lockie have a couple of CBAs. They're seeing things differently than I do, that's for sure. What do you reckon?
Well, I personally think Nick should be whiplashed for that, quite frankly. They should bloody give him a whiplashing. He should be. Oh, seriously. If you want to be taken seriously as an AFL coach, that is bloody ridiculous what he did. Firstly, Murphy shouldn't be the sub. He is never going to be part of any grand final team ever, as long as my arse points to the ground. He never will. Never. He should not be in the side. You've got a young lad called Edwards. This would have been the perfect opportunity against Richmond to make him the sub and bring him on for a quarter and a half. It would have been the perfect game. And what we've got bloody Murphy. He's got to have picks, decent picks or something. I can't understand it. It just makes no sense.
Well,
so
and
I've really...
Worse than that, big man, is the fact that Edwards played in the 2s and they played him deep in defence. So, and we flogged North, and he hardly got a look because he was out of the play for most of the time. It's almost like they're trying to sabotage his career or something.
Yeah, I mean, that, and also if you just listen to the way our coaches talk about some of our kids, like even Curtin, Nixie's first instinct was to, apart from pleasantly surprised, which was a weird comment in itself, his first go-to was talking about, he's got a lot to work on. And that's what we heard about Taylor and Edwards and other guys. Every time they comment on the kids, it's always the first thing is, he's got a lot of work, lots still to work on. And it's just, I don't like that attitude, to be honest. I think it's sort of, how's that going to boost your confidence levels of these young players? But there's being realistic, and then there's also just being a bit too pessimistic, if that makes sense. And look, it's that especially in a game like this, which we knew was going to be pretty one-sided. Without being arrogant, I think we all expected a decent win today. And the club should have known that. So what harm is there, even if it's as the sub role? What do you lose from putting in a Taylor or someone like that into that? Even if it's as the sub, you lose nothing. You probably gain more than you lose. So it just seems like a waste. And as you said, Macca, hopefully we don't plan to have Murphy in the team come for their finals time. That'd be a disaster for years. But
I think I think that's a certainty. I mean, half of the year we're in contention. It's the time that the coaching staff would settle on their preferred 22 or 23, and Murphy's obviously a part of that. So I'm sorry, Mac,
Why?
but I reckon if we make the grand final, Murphy's part of it.
Well, all I can say is a whip lashing for the coach. He should be whipped for that. I mean, seriously. The fans, everybody in the world knows it. Anybody with any common sense, anybody's got eyeballs, anybody who can watch footy can see he's not the answer. And that's not his fault. It's not his fault, but it's the coach's fault. And for me, I just think it's indefensible. The coach be whiplashed. That's just not. It's just wrong. It is wrong.
Yeah.
You've got all these lads. This was the perfect opportunity to give them a go. And I would have, it could have been Taylor, it could have been any of the others. Personally, I would have liked to see somebody like Edwards given a go, because he has shown some great form in the twos, but there's no reward for him. You just bring this bastard back.
And Mac,
Now,
like
we need
to
sorry to interrupt, but let's not bag the individual. It's not Lockie's fault that he got selected. So
I did make
Macca,
that
let's
point.
just, yeah, I know, but you also called him a bastard. So let's
I
not question his
apologise
lineage.
for that.
Let's
Yes,
not
I do
question
apologise him for
his lineage. It's look, you can't blame the bloke for putting his hand up for selection, but
No, you can't.
it's they keep selecting him.
Well,
Brownie, are you in favour of a whipping, a public flogging for that selection?
I'm not so much a public flogging, but I would like to see the media commentators questioning him a bit.
Yeah.
A bit. They seem to accept, maybe because they don't know the ins and outs of our club and they're covering 18 different clubs, they don't pick up on it. But
yeah,
it just seems like quite obvious to anyone that watches every week that he's not up to AFL standard, yet the coach keeps picking him and he doesn't seem to be being questioned by anyone on the selection panel or other coaches because it keeps happening.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry,
go on, mate.
Sorry, Finn. What I was just going to say before was, to me, like the way I look at our team now, and this has probably changed over the course of the year because I think a couple of blokes have solidified themselves in the team, like Curtin. I think Berry, to an extent, has done that now too. But I still think there's probably, I reckon there's about 20 to 21 places in the team where I'm pretty sure those players in those positions are pretty much locked in, bar injury.
Yeah.
There's still 2 or 3 spots there to be taken and to be rotated and keep things fresh and to debut. And none of those guys have, like a Smith, even a Smith, certainly not a Murphy, and guys like Pedler and such, none of them have like secured that spot like Curtin and Berry have. Those spots should be rotated around and given to players that are performing and ideally to players that have more of a future. We know what Murphy's future is. We still don't know what Taylor or Edwards' futures are. And I just think it's a real missed opportunity because you're not going to get too many more opportunities. There's only 8 games left before finals. It just seems like a waste. I know we won today and stuff, but it just, like, what harm would there have been to playing an Edwards in Smith's role or a Taylor in Murphy's role? It just frustrates me. I guess we'll have to wait and see how selection is this week when Pedler comes back and what happens there, because it's how can they justify playing Murphy again in that role with those players available and the way we played against North Adelaide in the reserves? It's just surely not a thing. Like,
I have a theory. And if you look at the last 3 years, we've done exceptionally well on the trade table, and we've filled that hole that we had, in the 23 to 27 year age group with Peatling and Cummings and A and B, etc. I have a sneaking suspicion they don't actually rate our kids, and they will look to trade again, and whether it be Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller or somebody else or a combination of a couple of people or whatever, my impression is that he doesn't rate them, and that we will trade our way to a premiership winning squad. I don't necessarily mind that approach, except that's the approach you take when you've got a solid cast of senior players that are all contributing every week. Like, say, a Geelong that, their senior players continue to contribute, well into their 30s. We don't have that. our plus 30s are fair to middling, it has to be said. And so using that strategy is dangerous because we might end up with the same age gap situation that we had previously as those older players drop off and we haven't given enough chances to those younger players. So, but that's what I think, Mac. I think that he's happy. It's the first time in our history that we've been so trade happy. And I don't think it's any coincidence that it coincides with his tenure as coach.
Well, I will say one thing. In terms of trading, I think the club's been quite remarkable, really, for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, 100%.
And look, if they can come up with answers like that all the time, then we'd be silent on the matter. But I still think, though, when you're going to have a game like today, I expected a 10-goal win, and I think that most people would have been sort of chalking about the same amount up. Now, I just think Smith is close. He's 33, I think Smith is, and I thought he played quite well, and I think he's about the same age. And he played reasonably well today. I'm not knocking the guy. But from the point of view, he's not going to be really a long-term part of the club. So you just got to take these opportunities when you can put a young lad in form and give him a crack. I notice other teams, and if you have a look at the team selections each week, I would say just about every other club has been still in the process of bringing in young players here and there just to have a crack. And just to see how they go, because you don't know how they're going to go until you try them. And if their form is good in the twos, I think that is the perfect time to bring them in, when their form is good in the twos and you've got an easy game. That's the right time to bring them in. And I just think I'm delighted the way the club's going. I'm delighted with the way they're bringing players in, but we go to the draft and we bring these players in, and you've also got to give them the same opportunity. So there could be a piece of gold there that, that's not getting an opportunity. So that's the way I feel about it.
Brandy, do you think it might be the fact that they don't want an in-out situation for these young lads, and they kind of feel that if they can't give them a block of games, they're better off having that block of games in the twos?
I don't know if it is that, because I think it's more that, he just doesn't trust them. Because if you remember Curtin last year, he didn't mind in and out with Curtin. Last year, he'd give him a game or half a game and then drop him, then bring him back. And there was no, we'll back here for 3 games to give him a bit of confidence and give him a bit of a chance at the start. So I don't necessarily think that's the problem. I just think he doesn't trust the young guys.
Yeah. Well, look, as I said, I don't necessarily mind a trading approach. I just don't think we've got the senior players to underpin it. You know what I mean? And I still feel, as you say, Mac, that there's probably 3 or 4 players that should be getting rotated through. Draper, Taylor, Edwards. We haven't seen anything of Oscar Ryan. You've got Hugh Bond in the back lines there, who I'm sure would do just as good a job as Rory Laird, for example. And I think these fellas need an opportunity, and I just think it's a bit fraught with danger if you ignore the talent in your seconds. I mean, look at Nankervis, for example. He was rock solid last year, and now he's been shuffled around in different positions, and now he's in no man's land again. It's very strange. It's a very strange development path for some of these lads.
Well, I think you've always got to have some development, Fane, because we've been a little bit charmed with injuries at the moment.
Definitely,
we haven't. If you look at every week, we seem to be at most having maybe one out injured at worst, and a lot of times no players out injured. But there's no doubt, our fitness people have done a great job, and and we've been charmed in terms of injuries. We had probably a couple of suspensions. That's all, but. And I know that makes it a lot harder for them to give young lads an opportunity. But when you actually recalling players that are 33 years old in Smith, for example, and it's not his fault, I'll make that very clear. But there are opportunities there to, as you mentioned, Bond, or mentioned Edwards, they could be playing in that particular role. Billy Dowling, he must wonder what the hell he's ever going to have to do to get another game. Because
clearly they've earmarked Dowling and Schoenberg and that as depth, and I wouldn't mind betting that a couple of those lads will be looking for new horizons.
Well, they should be, shouldn't they? They should be.
Well,
otherwise, they're not going to get games.
If there's interest, then surely they would be. Yeah, definitely. Anyway, look, I don't want to harp on it too much because it was a good win, but I just wanted to run through that because I thought the rash subbing was strange, and the Lockie Murphy and Brodie Smith selections just continue to baffle me. But anyway, let's move on. And let's just go through the formalities, shall we? And of course, for those who didn't see the game, 18-14, 122 to 8-6-54 in the end. Quite a comfortable 68-point victory, and that puts us 2-1 at the G this year, which is really good. If we just have a look at the team stats for a minute, you can see that as much as there are a few scuffles here and there, the game was played a lot on the outside. The 397 disposals to 307. We went at 75% disposal efficiency to their 70. Inside 50s, 59 to their 40. Our efficiency inside 50 was a lot better, 58% to their 38. Marks inside 50 was where we were obviously dominant, 17 marks inside 50 to 7. As you mentioned, Mac, we had our colours lowered in clearances, 10 to 15 at centre and 25 to 27 at stoppage, despite O'Brien winning the hit-outs by 13. But it was our contested possession count where we made up for that, our ground ball stuff, 142 to 114. And for the first time in a long time, we were up at 251 uncontested possessions, which, as I said at the beginning, is much more reflective of the first couple of rounds of the season in terms of us trying to get the ball on the outside and maintain ball security. They only had 176 uncontested possessions. 127 marks to 68. We very much moved the ball by foot rather than hand. 52 turnovers to 70 and 56 tackles to 51. So, it's pretty obvious to anyone watching it. We're very much using foot skills to chip the ball through, and we're being meticulous, as we said. So there's nothing really that's surprising in those stats other than it was a real departure from how we've been playing for probably the last month. Big man.
You go, Macca.
No, go on, mate. You have a turn.
I mean, and look, every game's different. Today was obviously a lot drier, so that helps as well. I don't think Richmond's pressure game was particularly great. And as I said earlier, like a lot of our ball came off intercepts and rebounds because they kept turning it over at half forward. And some of our halfbacks feasted, I think. And, it would have been a nice day for some of those guys because they were just flinging it around willy-nilly. But there wasn't a whole lot of overlap or run, which was a bit strange because I expected us to play probably a bit more frenetic than given the opportunity that we had. It was probably more measured and slower play than I expected, but look, it worked. And I thought, if not for some missed opportunities in front of goal, we just couldn't get those snaps on target that we usually do. And in the end, it was a 68-point win. I think it should have been about 80 plus.
I reckon we left
just
5
felt like we
goals
didn't capitalize. Yeah, it just felt like we didn't quite capitalize, and we gave up a couple of easier goals late in the game. But I mean, look, it's hard to be too complacent about these things because we were in Richmond's position not long ago, and obviously now we're the team that's starting to bully these sort of teams. So it does change, and thank God we're actually capable of doing that because it doesn't always happen, with rebuilds. Look at North Melbourne; they're still getting bullied, and I reckon their rebuild started almost the same time as us, if not earlier, maybe.
Oh, earlier, really? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's never guaranteed when you rebuild that it's going to be successful. Look at Carlton; they've been rebuilding for 20 years, and they made the Power look like world beaters. So yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like it could have been better, but I still like I didn't love the way we played, but at the same time we got results as I said also earlier, I think one of the best things was that we didn't need Dawson and Rankin to go ballistic today. It was actually Curtin, it was Worrell, and some others. Mike Laney kicks 3, Thilthorpe kicks 5. Like these are kids, which is a great sign going forward because we need these guys to be at the level of our best players. That's what gets you premierships.
Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are live and interactive, and we have Animal with us to have a bit of a say. How you going, mate?
Good guys. How you going?
Animal.
Very well.
Good night.
It's been a while.
What can we...
Well, it's everyone's favourite happy clapper come back to G up the Crows after a win. But I came on here early in the season and I said, I reckon we're on track for 15 wins this year. And I just want to know what you'll think about that now. There's 8 games to go. We need to go 5-3 to get 15. And looking through the games, I reckon there's 5, maybe 6 winnable games there. There's 8 winnable games, but it's 6 realistically games we should win, or 5 we should win. The 3 I'm counting out is Bulldogs away, Collingwood at home, and Hawthorn at home. So we could possibly beat Hawthorn at home, but that was the one I was a bit of a maybe on. But I don't know. What do you guys think? 15 wins.
Sounds good to me. I think in fairness, I think you've summed it up pretty well. I mean, it doesn't always go to plan, but but if you could say that if everything went to form, that's probably a reasonable result with them at 15, maybe 16. But as I say, every game's a new game, and things can go wrong in any one game whether you have major injuries in the game or whatever. I just think when you're at this stage of the year, you're just playing one game at a time and make sure you win that one particular game.
Absolutely, for sure.
I think there's probably only one, I'll say unwinnable. No game's unwinnable, but one game that I think you would safely say we're probably not going to win. That's the Bulldogs game. Although it's just because to be fair, I think before that was in Ballarat, where I definitely would have thought it was unwinnable. Now I think it's just really tough. We're not going to win every game from now on. So you're going to drop some, and I think that stands out as a game where their team is certainly informed. They're on the home deck. Apart from that, we've got West Coast away. You'd hope we'd win that. We've got a fair few teams at home, even though they're good teams. Collingwood and Hawthorn.
The Suns at home, I think we can beat.
I think we'll want to beat them too after last time. Port's a home showdown, so that you'd like to think we win that. But I think we've got North away. So. That they'll probably be on holidays by then, so hopefully we can get that job done. The good thing is that our percentage is so strong too. So unless we have an absolute Barry Crocker from now on, that's almost going to be like an extra win compared to some of the teams around us. I know, unfortunately, Hawthorn gained a lot on the weekend against North, but they're still a fair bit behind, and that could be a deciding factor.
There's 4 teams on 10 wins.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
a lot, Jan.
On 10?
5, is it?
Yeah, all the way down to 8th,
6th or something.
Third I think it sounds conservative, but I think we need to go at least one out of the 2 wins against Hawthorn and Collingwood. They're both home games.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
And they're both bogey teams. Now I'd love to beat both, and they're home. They're home, so you'd like to think we do, but at very least, it has to be one of those. Yeah,
look, I agree, and I think we can win one of those, at least one of those 3 games that I'm a bit sketchy on. But also, we'll probably lose one of the other 5 that we should win. So it's you sort of balance that out, and it's obviously we're just throwing darts at the board, but it's kind of fun to have a bit of a speculation.
No,
it's just come on to have a bit of a gloat and a bit of an I told you so. So thanks, mate.
And by the way, I'm coming back. I'm coming back at the end of the season. Either way, if we don't get 15, I'll come back. I'll take my licks. All right, promise.
All right, mate.
Thanks, mate.
But I said at the start of the season, just quickly before I let you go, I said at the start of the season, for me, for us to make finals was a pass mark, a C. For us to win a final was to get a B, and if we make a prelim, I think that's an A mark for us this year. So I don't know. I think we're on track for a decent B. I think we can win a final.
Hope so, mate.
Very good, mate.
But anyway, I'll let you go, and we'll see how we go at the end of the season.
Good to hear you
Thanks,
again,
Aaron.
mate. Happy
See you,
travel.
mate.
Thanks, mate.
Nice.
Don't call him Arab. That was animal. Okay.
Oh, animals. Sorry, mate. My apologies. My apologies.
Too positive for
Yeah.
Arab.
Yeah. Well, it depends what medication he's on at the time, Arab. Sometimes he's completely positive, and other times it's a shit show. So who knows? All right.
He's got every right to be upset. Sorry, mate.
Let's whiz through a couple of notables, and can't go past Daniel Curtin this week. 26 disposals, 8 marks, 5 tackles, 2 goals, 7 inside 50s, 11 score involvements, 8 intercept possessions, 495 metres gained. If that's not a breakout game, I don't know what is, Brownie.
Yeah, I reckon he might have had a few less possessions than a few of the others, but I'd put him on top in terms of just his efficiency with the ball and metres gained, efficiency going into forward 50. And if you look at a lot of the guys that had high possessions like Miller, Adelaide, Worrell and Hinge, they had a lot of marks and they had a lot of chip kicks back and forward. But Curtin, pretty much everything he did really had some impact. So, yeah, unbelievable game.
Actually, we had several players on the same number of possessions as Curtin, but no one higher. So your point is valid. There were several that on 26, 3 or 4 of them, but I thought his was the most effective bit. He's a beautiful kick with his foot. It's a beautiful kicking style, and he's got a great pair of hands. And I think what I really did like about the way he played, he's actually playing with a little bit of authority, I think, at the moment. Like, he really thinks, that's the word I was looking for, arrogance. Just a little bit of arrogance. And that when the players are doing that, he knows that he fits, and he knows that he's good enough for it. And I just expect him to go on and on from here, because once a player starts believing that, that's when they really start to play well. And yeah, I think he's really got his head now that he's got it, and I think it'll just grow and grow. He's got to be a ripper.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's arrogance. I think it's very much self-confidence. I think he's growing into his
in a good
body, and he feels like he belongs, and he's so confident overhead, and he's hitting up those spot-up kicks, and it just looks completely part of it. And thank God we didn't try and turn him into a fullback.
Finn, I would almost say I know it was against lesser opposition, don't get me wrong, but in a way, this is almost the perfect wing game. You had 26 touches and 2 goals. You have second most score involvements on the ground, but you also have the second most intercepts on the ground. So you're working back and forth, and the most goal assists on the ground. It's just an insanely good game. And like, I know Supercoach isn't everything, but he scored over 150 Supercoach. So this is I think this is the definition of a breakout game. It's exciting, and like last year, I remember Darcy Wilson was having really good games, and you would have been forgiven for Crows fans for thinking, oh, gee, maybe was the trade up worth it? But like, it just takes time sometimes. And I mean, to be honest, he's only in his second year, so even if he had an okay year this year, I still wouldn't have been overly concerned. But he's just going gangbusters at the moment, and he just gets better every game. that's the great thing.
Well, and it's refreshing too that we have a player finally that actually plays better after he signed his contract. Riley O'Brien should take note. That's how you're supposed to do it. You sign your contract, then you keep getting better.
Yep. No, that's a very good point.
The fact that he's signed on for 3 years is just a massive boost for the club. To have 2 unicorns in Thilthorpe and Curtin running around plucking marks and imposing themselves on the game physically and having such an influence is just like teams would die just to have one of them at the moment, I think.
He was taking those marks effortlessly, Fee. It's just like as if he had no opposition. And the kid's going to be a real star.
Anyone there?
Hello, I got silence.
I'm here. Rob's gone missing.
Oh, no.
I'm not this again.
Maybe he's just
talk
deep
amongst
thought.
yourselves. Yeah, could be.
I'll keep it going while we're doing. I think it needs to be considered too. He jarred his knee quite bad. Oh, I can hear myself now.
Yeah.
He jarred his knee quite badly in the pre-season last year. So he was hobbling for most of last year. I don't know if you guys were if you guys watched in the year, especially earlier in the year, he looked sore. He wasn't moving well at all. So it can't be easy to play any role, let alone as a key position player. It's amazing, now that he's fit and firing. And I mean, people said that draft was I remember people saying that was going to be a weak draft. But most of that top 10 is absolutely firing at the moment. I know Harley Reid's been just okay this year, but he's going to be a star. The Wizard Watson, Nate Caddy, was taken after Curtin. Connor O'Sullivan's going really well now. Windsor's been good. Sanders has been pretty good. There's a lot of good players in that top 10 in that draft. We could have picked between Curtin and O'Sullivan, and I would have been happy with either. To be honest, but I think Curtin's just got that extra edge, that just extra bit of class that Connor doesn't have. So,
it was interesting. The club did trade up to get him, didn't they? I mean, they obviously had him.
Yeah, and
as I said, I think we were. If you go back and look past the last 3 or 4 drafts, they've been, which I think have been, and trading that's been excellent. I think we what we've done in the last 3 or 4 years is that of a good club. But if we go back prior to that, the drafting was horrible. So it's really good now to see that when we make a target, they are actually good. And to get a draft pick like Curtin, I think that was really, really good work by the team to actually do the training and target the lad and get him. And actually now he's just showing that he was worth the effort.
Yeah. Well, and
we just got to get the brother.
We didn't have to give up much Mackerits in that trade. It was pretty much a no-brainer. Usually you have to give up an extra first rounder to move up in the draft at that point. But it was just we had to move slightly back in the first round with another pick we had. And I think we had to give up a second rounder or something, a future second round. I can't remember exactly, but
we did a future and a future second, yeah.
Yeah, but it was only a move from 15 to 17 or something in the first round as well. And that was to jump up, 4 spots in the draft or something like that in the top. And when you get into that top 10, that's a big jump. And
just incredible that the clubs out west let him slip through their fingers.
Yeah, and I mean, Mac, you said we stuffed up those early picks, but in the that 2018, 2019, obviously Jones and Mackesy, but last 5 looks pretty well. Thilthorpe, Rochelle, Michael Lanny, Curtin, and hopefully Draper will be great in time. So that looks it looks a lot better that way.
Well, it's a drastic improvement.
The other player I thought I'd highlight is Riley Thilthorpe. 16 touches, 6 marks, a couple of hit-outs, 5 goals, 12 score involvements and 10 contested possessions. Back to dominating. I felt like they were always going to struggle with our tall forwards, but Riley made the most of his opportunities, and it was a welcome return to form for the big beast.
He is a beast, isn't he? I mean, how would you like to have to stand your feet? I mean, how do you effectively stand a player like him, because he's mobile. He's got the mobility of a player much smaller than himself, and he's got a beautiful pair of hands, and he's got a good football IQ. No, he's just growing. He's another one. He still hasn't reached his total peak yet. So the future's very, very bright with him. Very bright indeed.
It's interesting, Brownie. I don't know whether you noticed, but he was playing with his right hamstring strapped. So they obviously weren't too concerned. He came off at one stage, but came back on after 5 minutes or so. Is he worth persisting with a niggle, or do you just put him on ice next week if he's carrying a bit of a strain?
Yeah, I didn't think it would have been a strain. I thought it might have been an impact injury because I can't think there'd be any reason when you're up by 8 goals that you'd take a chance and put some heat into it and get him back on the field if it was anything of a strain or anything like that, and the potential to make it worse. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I reckon it might have just been like a corky or a knock or something like that. But
yeah, I thought it looked like a corky to me because the way they were massaging, I thought corky straight away. But could be wrong. But that's how just looking at it, that's what it looked like.
Yeah, well, if it's a cork, that's fine. Although if you're Luke Pedler, apparently they take 6 months to get over because they'd rather not pick you. But it was good to see the big fella get back into some form. His kicking was pretty sharp as well, which was good. So look, I mean, there were a few others. I thought Jordan Butts on Lynch.
Oh, yeah.
Lynch looked like he was about to lose his freaking mind at just before halftime. He had crazy eyes going on and all sorts of stuff. And lots of various views, Brownie, on what he should get. I reckon that's a 4-week job.
I think it's more about the look of the game comes into it as well. The fact that it wasn't a football incident. It was a malicious sort of attack on the player.
Good old-fashioned Barry Hall
frustration.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just got the better of him. So I think 4 is pretty much where most of the commentators were saying it would land. I think because he didn't hit him flush in the head. If he hit him flush in the temple and knocked him out, it would have been 8.
Oh,
Yeah.
8 or 10. It would have been. Yeah. So I think he's lucky that it was a glancing blow, but I think he's got to get 4 because, some of the stuff that people are getting rubbed out for 2 and 3 weeks when it's just incidental contact, they've got to make a statement. So I think 4 is fair.
Agreed.
I don't. I'd give him more than that because, I mean, that really is, it was an unprovoked situation. It wasn't like there was a tussle and 2 blokes facing each other. It was a cowardly blow to the back of the neck of a bloke. And it's just not, that's going back into the 50s, the 60s, the 70s when they used to assault each other. And that was an assault. It wasn't a part of football action. It wasn't even involved in a football action. It was frustration on his part, and he just pelted at him, what's the name, in the back. And that was, but that was just uncalled for, absolutely uncalled for. And I think 4 is light. To me, I would give him 6.
Yeah, I wouldn't complain about 6. I wouldn't complain about 6 because it wasn't the only swing he took either.
No.
There
was another one.
I think it was on Worrell or might have been Keane that he swung another 2, and a few on the Richmond forum saying, "Oh yeah, he's being scragged and all the rest of it." Well, cry me a river.
Doesn't matter.
It happens to every forward everywhere,
Yeah.
So
Also,
go mate.
Sorry, Finn. I'll go. I was just going to say just about Butts because obviously we're talking about Lynchy, but that was such a confident performance from Butsy. Like not just to back himself in the air. Obviously, we know he spoils and he defends well, but to take those intercept marks 2 on Lynch, and just the way he's playing and he's shown that in the past that as long as he's really healthy and he's not getting footage injuries or whatever, he's a very handy player and he's probably in career best form, to be honest, at the moment. And I know we've got Nick Murray coming back at the reserves, but you can't make the change yet. And it's a bit of a conundrum. It's a good conundrum to have. But, I think this might be the best footy I've seen him play. And that extra height he has really does help against guys like Lynch that some of the other boys can't handle. And I'm really happy for him and what he's doing right now, because, you know, he was obviously not in our best 22 coming to start the year. And now it's what do we do? You know, what do we do with him and Murray? Because both deserve to be in the team, but do you fit both in, or like, how do we go about this in the back half of the year?
Well, I think Butts has always been a little bit underrated, if you ask me. And at times he's played with injuries, I think, that have hobbled him a bit in terms of its effectiveness. But as you say, big man, when he's fit, he's very good at locking down a big monster forward. You know, Muzza's going to have to work his way back in. It makes you wonder whether that might have prompted a bit of a move with Michael Annie to see if we can shoehorn the three of them in. I don't think we can. Shoehorn Keane, Butts, and Murray into the same defence. But it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. Murray was fairly tentative in the twos. I think he might take a couple of weeks to get back to any sort of fitness and form anyway. So in the short term, it probably won't be a problem. But he might find that he struggles to get back in, or it might be a horses for courses situation.
Yeah, but it is a good situation, isn't it, Fane, that they normally, you know, people with a player his size, teams, you know, want to rush him back as quickly as they can. But we're in the luxury position that we don't need to have to do that at the moment. And I would make sure that before Murray did go up there, if the situation allows it, that he, you know, when he's been out for as long as he has, you know, I reckon to get the right conditioning into him, the right fitness into him, he's got to play at least 3, maybe 4 games before they consider him, in my opinion, unless we have an injury. But because at the moment the back line is performing well, and you don't mess with a good thing. I'm sure there'll be a situation, there'll be an injury, or something has to be moved or around, or might be a player further up, and one of the backmen goes up another spot and makes room for him. The opportunity will probably come up, but I'd wait until that was just a necessity rather than doing it just because.
Well, if Josh Worrell keeps throwing himself where angels fear to tread, Brownie, then it might be him coming out, because there are a couple of times that he just he puts himself in situations, and at one stage he got absolutely hammered by Lynch. I think it was in the first or the second quarter, with Lynch coming in with his knees, and then a bit of a back heel to the head on the way through, and the umpire didn't happen to see that. But I thought Worrell's game again was outstanding, and he's absolutely fearless.
Yeah, I was a bit concerned with that first knock when he got that one to the back, the ribs in his back, that he might be in a bit of trouble. I thought, God, hope he hasn't broken a rib. But he took a while to free up, and then he seemed to come good, and then he went in for another bloody kamikaze effort the next quarter, and that's like, don't you learn? But that's just his natural game. It's just his intent to get the ball, and his intent to get the player if he hasn't got the ball is just unrivaled in our team, I reckon. His second efforts, but today it was just an all-round game. It was marking beautifully, kicking well. He was even sneaking forward and getting some metres gained, and it was a really, really a tough effort, but a really polished effort again. And if he's not in serious contention for All-Australian, I think something's wrong, because I don't reckon there's many players doing it better than him at the moment.
100%.
Well, I just want to reverse course just for a minute, because I was going to say something about Curtin, and then my earbud ran out, and I had to scramble and find another one. Ashcroft is obviously the clubhouse leader for the Rising Star this year at the moment, but if Dan Curtin keeps putting in those performances, Ashcroft has been, I think, good but not great. Curtin a chance for the Rising Star?
Absolutely, because he's doing it at the right time, Fane. Levi, he's talking about Levi Ashcroft. He had some outstanding games earlier. I just noticed his last few haven't been quite as good. I mean, he's still playing A grade, and he's still playing reasonably well. But the way that Curtin's star is rising at the moment. If he could keep doing this for another couple of weeks in a row, I think, it's going to put him right into calculations, put it that way. At the moment, I think, probably somebody says Curtin needs three more games. That's probably right. But Levi Ashcroft is playing in a team that's probably not going to allow him to be the dominant player all the time, because they've got so many other players getting the ball as well. But I think Curtin is just in the right spot at the right time. If he continues this type of form, every chance of winning it.
Yeah, and I raise that because you're right. You're right. I think Worrell certainly needs to be in All-Australian conversations, as a few others do as well. And it's just it's quite amazing that at the beginning of the season we probably were a bit concerned about our defensive setup. We didn't really know how Keane was going to come on. Butts was injured. Murray was a bit of a mainstay. But as it turns out, it's rock solid back there.
Certainly is. Worrell is he's actually grown this year too. I mean, he was a good player last year, but he's gone to another level, absolutely to another level. Keane was a little bit rickety in the first 2 or 3 games. I wondered what the hell was going to happen. He made a few dumb decisions, but he's actually got his act together there and making a lot better decisions. So yeah, but it's been. But as Big Man said, he's been ironclad in the last couple of weeks. He's really great form at the moment.
I will say, with the rising star, like, I think you forgot Harvey Langford would be right up there, and Murphy Reid I think would still be ahead of Curtin, but he's probably fourth now, I reckon.
Langford's had a pretty good season, and probably justifies my desire to take him ahead of Draper, but that's another conversation. But I don't know. In terms of damage and value for possessions and just presence on the ground, he'd have to be in the top 3 of that draft score at this time, I would say. Well,
you're right, Beam. Those comments that you made are quite right. It's about what he's doing with the ball, and as you say, he's got a big presence, because being a big tall person, that really stands out even more. I mean, he just stood out in the game today, and I mean, he's a kid, just like a second-year kid, and he just stood out, and with a huge presence. And the usage of the ball is also another thing, that his usage is outstanding with the ball. So that I think that elevates him up in the running too. They're probably right. He's probably not the leader at this stage, but if he just 2-3 more games like that, he's going to be right up there.
Yeah. Now, Brownie, you've dropped out of teens for some reason, so you might want to just log back in there.
Yeah, we'll do, mate.
Now, who was the other one I was going to talk about? It's going to be very interesting to see what they do with Matty Crouch once he comes back, because I think Sam Berry has cemented his value in the team. I think he brings he's not as prolific, obviously, as Matty Crouch, but I think value for possession is starting to get to a point where it's on par. And I would hate to see them mess with Berry at the moment by moving into a forward position or benching him or subbing him or something like that when Matt Crouch gets back.
I should probably answer first, Pete, because of the fact you and I used to argue about this Berry Crouch thing forever.
I didn't say anything.
But I will lead off by saying they can't bring Crouch back. They just can't bring him back, because they've got a style of play at the moment, I think, that Crouch doesn't suit. So,
but they will, Mac.
They can't. I mean, Berry is justifying his position. He's. I think he's still got to improve a little bit more, and I think he will in time. You just get the more opportunities you get, the better you get. But I think that Crouch is at that stage of his career that his style of play is actually surplus to the way that we're playing at the moment. And so from my point of view, I would think that I'd be looking at, I don't know whether we can trade him next year or whatever, but I just don't think he fits anymore.
Brownie, have you logged back into Teams?
No, I can't. Can't get the link, but that's fine. I can talk without being having my ugly face on there. I just wanted to say,
looks stupid because it messes with my setup.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. Anyway, go on. Say what you're going to say.
Yeah, I was just going to say with regard to Berry, he seems to be just growing in confidence, and he's instead of the Matt Crouch quick give to someone under pressure when he's in tight traffic, he's just got the confidence to work through the traffic now, and he did it 5 or 6 times today, where most other guys would have given the easy handball or they would have kicked it, panic kicked, and just dumped it, and he's just walking, just running. You know, he's pretty quicker than he looks, I reckon, and he breaks through the tight traffic, and then most of the time his delivery is pretty good. I think he had 14 kicks and 9 handballs today, and most of those kicks gained ground and were pretty effective. So if you compare his effectiveness, he might have 8 less possessions than Crouch, but his efficiency's, you know, probably at 80%, where Crouch is probably at 20. So if we did the swap, we're giving a fair bit up now because he's really getting to the stage where he's contributing really solidly.
Yeah. Now log back into Teams.
Okay.
Because at the moment, I'm seeing Macca's right ear.
My link's gone. That's why I can't get back in.
Or just go back into the private chat, into the direct messages. It's not hard, man. Anyway, look, I think that's probably about it. You know, we were playing the 17th team or whatever they are, and sometimes there's not a lot to be gained from a game. You got more to lose out of a game like that than to win. We did what we had to do. I think we did it in good fashion. You know, we played a game style that we wanted to play and largely had the game on our terms. You know, it's always dangerous coming back from a bye. So I think it would have been considered by the coaching staff and the playing group as job well done. And onwards and upwards with Melbourne next week. And we'll talk about that at the end of the cast. Any other final thoughts, gentlemen?
I can say yes. I just on further what you were saying there, Fiend. I think it was a bonus game for us in the sense that because when you come back from a bye, you just never really at your very, very best. And if you look at our first quarter, it was horrible. And you do that against a good team, you might be sitting out of the game. We've got an opportunity to make all those errors you do, and I think from a programming point of view, we couldn't have asked for better because then we got the opportunity once we've got over that first bit of the rust and string a bit of a game together. So by the end of the game, played some pretty good bits of play at times. It wasn't all that, but overall, it was good to have that bye. It was just the right timing for us, and I think that gets us very cherry ripe for the next one. I think we'll be much sharper in the next game.
Agreed.
Brownie, I was going to ask you, Brownie, did you think we looked a bit sluggish though at centre bounce today? I thought we just looked a bit off, and we allowed. I know they've got some good inside mids like Taranto, Hopper, and Prestia, but it seemed like I just thought our method in the midfield wasn't up to scratch quite today.
Yeah, I don't know. I got the impression maybe our tactics changed a bit because we seemed to be like our pressure was fantastic throughout the whole game, and I don't know whether we were happy with them getting that first possession and then applying pressure because we were hunting in packs pretty much around the stoppages. We were hunting in packs and giving them very little chance to get a clean possession or a clean handball or kick off. So. Yeah, I wonder whether that was actually just a change in game style. If it wasn't, then we were definitely sluggish because we weren't first to the ball regularly. Yeah, I'm not sure what anyone else thinks, whether that could have been an intentional change.
Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. I'm trying to fix cameras because Brownie refuses to get back on Teams.
Yeah, that's because
What
my link's gone.
No, it's
What
not,
about you,
Jeff.
Macca?
Just go into your direct messages. It's right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to answer that comment, I don't really think
Top
it was
left.
intentional. I just think it was the way that the way it worked out, in the sense that it was. I just saw that somebody posted, Curvis's hit out to advantage 43.8% on 32 hit outs. O'Brien 22% on 41 hit outs. So I don't think we voluntarily let them take the ball first. I just think that Curvis, when he did get the tap, directed it a lot better than Rob, because Rob, as we know, when he often gets a tap, he hits it to the opposition anyhow. So I think we were just forced into that situation.
Ben, are you back now?
Yeah, I'm back, but I don't have anything more to add. All right, let's go on to Macca's weekend results, shall we, Macca?
All right, we can do that, please.
We can do that.
Yes, we can do it.
Another shortened round this week because of the stupid buys, but we started off with Port Adelaide 16-14-110 defeating an absolutely terrible Carlton 8-12-60.
Yeah, my word was pathetic instead of absolutely terrible. But otherwise, it was exactly the same as that. Look, they only managed one goal at half time. I mean, this club is going nowhere. Vossi, he must have been crapping himself half time thinking about his job. The truth is that they've got a very slow midfield. I mean, some of their names are big names in the centre, but it's a slow midfield. And Butters and Bergman, they just tore them apart, and they are quick. And I just think Carlton's future looks bleak, mate. It doesn't look good to me.
Well, it just doesn't seem that. I mean, their squad is absolutely atrocious. The balance of their squad, and they've got some stars, and then it trails off so quickly. So, but they've got this Messiah syndrome at Carlton, similar to what we've had at times at the Crows, and I just feel like they need to rub it out and start again, and they won't do it. So I'd hate to be a Carlton supporter at the moment, to be honest. If I were
spot on.
Yeah. Then we had a good game between the Swans and the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs ending up getting up by 9 points, 16-9-105 to 14-12-96.
Yeah, possibly the match of the round this game. Because the Bulldogs been in form. They got the Bont back, and they got Darcy up forward, he's a future star. But Sydney, they took them right to the last few minutes to put Sydney away. I mean, Sydney haven't been in the greatest of form, but they got Gilden back, and he is a star. Gilden. I mean, the play as well as he did
makes a big difference
coming in. He is, and then Heaney, who had a shocking first half, decided to do a Heaney in the second half and kick 5 goals. So, and gave the Bulldogs a bit of a fright, but in the end, I think the Bulldogs won it because they had a much more even spread around the ground. So, the Bulldogs are a hard team to beat.
And then we had another entertaining game, I thought. The Suns getting up over Melbourne 15-14-104 to 12-13-85.
Yeah, Gold Coast won it really in the first quarter, didn't they? They kicked 5-7 to a point in that first quarter. And the Melbourne were playing catch-up for the rest of the game without much success. I mean, Witts is a damn good ruckman, actually. He sort of neutralised Gawn, and Rao, he reaped the benefit of that. And, I just think that Melbourne are sort of another club that's sort of coming into trouble. Their main scorer was Melksham. I mean, you wouldn't call him the typical full forward type situation. They haven't got much up there. Cosy Pickett, he was a star, and Petrarca played well. But overall, I do think though that Melbourne. Well, I just think they're not going anywhere at the moment.
Well, from their premiership years, they've lost Brown, and Van Rooyen isn't playing anywhere near as well as he was back then as kind of the number 2. Like you say, Melksham really is a bit player, so they were fortunate that he stood up and kicked a couple, but they really need a focal point up there.
They got problems.
Yeah. And then we had Hawthorn teaching North a lesson down in Tassie, 23-12, 150 to 9-11-65. A margin there of, 85 points, giving the Hawks a bit of percentage.
Yeah, not much to talk about here, Payne. Poor effort by North Melbourne. Gunston, who he's he nearly fit for the pitch, and he got 7 goals, and Child got 5 goals. Larky put 5 for North Melbourne. That's it.
Yeah, that really highlights North's lack of defence or tall defence, because like Child getting 5 goals is ridiculous. He's done nothing all year.
Yep.
And Gunston, he's a quality player, but he shouldn't be getting 7. So, anyway, and then we had on Saturday night, we had the Magpies getting up 13-10-88. Eagles didn't let them have it all their own way, 8-11-59.
I absolutely enjoyed this game, Pete. The bottom side was giving it 100%. Not of the same quality as the team they were playing, but they didn't bother to tag Nick Dacos. They let him run around like an unregistered dog. But by the same token, he's also not looking after his man. So look up to their first half. They were just about level on terms with Collingwood. And in fact, they were within a goal just a few minutes before 3/4 time. So, I take my hat off to them. They're the bottom team, but they gave it 100%. Obviously, class prevailed in the end. But, well done to, really basically it was Pendlebury and the Dacos boys that done them in the last quarter. And but well done to West Coast for putting up a good effort anyhow.
Well, I think that's what we're starting to see from the Eagles now again, is a bit of an effort. Obviously, they'd grown tired of the Simpson voice and message, that they just didn't seem to be putting in half the time, but now they seem to be putting in a bit of effort. They're going to struggle, obviously, when they lose a couple of players at the end of this season, if the rumours are true about Oscar Allen and Harley Reid, so that's going to put them back in struggle town, but they'll get a couple of nice juicy picks out of that and might be able to get a couple of players in, so... Yes, and then after our game this afternoon, of course, was also quite a good quality game. The Dockers getting up in the end, 11-15-81 to St Kilda, 9-15-69.
Yeah, but it's a typical Ross Lyon game. Not a lot of goals scored in, and I do like games where games where there's a lot more score. But I think that St Kilda, Freo just had the edge over him. St Kilda put it right to them. In fact, I think led, was it 3/4 time? And they got it. Yeah, they led by a goal, and then they got a goal just after 3/4 time, and then Freo did run over in the last dying moments where they kicked 5 goals on the trot and end up getting up. But one strange factor was about that was that Freo won the ruck 57 hitouts, but only had 26 clearances. And Saints had only 31 hitouts, but had 46 clearances. It was just incredible. It is incredible. It was the reverse of what logic says.
Yeah. Very good. All right, just a quick look at the ladder, and now aside from the Suns, which we can pretty much paste in a win anyway, we have everyone now on 15 games played. We have Collingwood on top, Clear on top, 52 points. Brisbane on 42 points in second. Then we have the Crows in third, Geelong fourth, Hawthorn fifth, Fremantle sixth, and I'd be happy to put the Suns in there in seventh on 40 points as well. And the Bulldogs rounding out the 8 on 36 points. And then out of the 8, we also have the Giants on 36 points, and I reckon that's it. Because after that, it's Port on 28, Carlton 24 with Sydney and Essendon, Melbourne and St Kilda on 20, North on 18, Richmond on 12, and West Coast on 4. I don't think Port can make the 8. So really, the bottom half of the 8 is out of probably the Bulldogs, Fremantle, and GWS, Mac.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. And I think that makes it very hard for the ones below them to get in there. The only way that if Port wanted to get in, they'd virtually have to win every game from here on in, or not.
Well, Port are the only realistic Port are the only other realistic or almost mathematical possibility, really.
Yeah, and also that they are a team that can pull out a good game now and then. So, but I don't think they can pull enough consistently. So I think what you said was right. That basically it's going to be only those 9 teams to be taken into account.
Yeah, Port's percentage is 88. Like that's almost putting them a further game behind. So anyway, That's all right. We won't cry about that. Very good. All right. So next week, of course, we have. Is it Melbourne at home? Melbourne at home, isn't it?
Yeah.
Next week.
Yep.
I don't think we copped any injuries out of today, although some reports saying that I saw someone say in the chat that Rush might be carrying a bit of a hip problem. Whether they decide to rest him or not remains to be seen. Anyone see any other changes, Brownie? You see any other changes unforced?
No, I think Rush had more of a sore bottom lip, it looked like, in the fourth quarter. He was the shittiest man in the world, wasn't he? He was absolutely seething.
Yeah, he wasn't
So
happy
he
at
knows
all.
how we feel when Murphy gets selected. That's the same kind of feeling that we have.
Oh, well done, Brownie.
But you're right. No, there's been, I don't think, any other injuries, unless Worrell comes up after that knock and there's any residual, but I don't think he seemed to move pretty well the last half of the game. So hopefully we're clean again.
Yes. And look, Melbourne are 14th, but they're not the worst side in the comp, and they still have some very good players. Obviously, Petrarca played really well, I thought, on the weekend, racked up numbers. They struggle to kick enough goals. I think they might struggle with our forward setup, but they will certainly challenge us around the contest, Mac.
Yeah, they will, and that because you'd expect that. I mean, Gawn's got massive reach, and I think that Rob does very, very well against Ruckman Lightning and Curvis, where they sort of just beat each other to death type of thing. Whereas Gawn will reach over the top of Rob, with all the due respect to Rob, who does try his hardest. Which I mean, and they've got Petrarca, who is a very good midfielder. Oliver not so good at the moment, but I just think that they used Pickett up as a midfielder at times too, and he did very, very well. So I can't totally write him off like that. I just think at the moment it's just that May's not playing as well at full back, and I think he could be in for a bad day. Then they dropped Lever, I noticed that. So in this particular game that they lost, they were lucky to end up as close as they were, because they didn't seem to have a forward line. They didn't seem to have a back line. So
just couldn't kick goals.
And,
they were very competitive around the contest.
Yes, that's their one area.
Have anything other? Yeah.
Yeah, no. In terms of the fixed positions, that's where they were let down, and so I think you're right. We've got to worry about the midfield, but if we can sort of neutralise it, break even, I think we've got them covered all around the rest of the ground. So as long as we don't allow the attack to run right, so that the midfield to run right, and I just think we should win. I think by maybe 4 to 5 goals.
Do you see us playing the same way, big man?
Well, early forecast is that there'll be some rain, so that probably not in terms of possession style. It'd be interesting to see how we match up against this current version of Melbourne, because a bit like Richmond, although probably even worse, we've struggled against the D's in recent times. Yeah. I think we've only beaten them, I want to say, once since Nick's took over, and that was, I think that's right. If my memory correctly, it was the one where Murray, rushed was it deliberate, was it not, game at the Adelaide Oval. Apart from that, I think we've lost every other game against them. And someone correct me if I'm wrong. To be fair, Melbourne have been a better team than they are this year. This year they're only just going. And they were really poor in that first quarter against Gold Coast, but they actually made a game of it after that. So they're not to be taken lightly. This is, I'd say this is a semi-dangerous game in the sense that they'll take it up to us, but you'd like to think we get the job done here. I'm curious about selection because we now have a situation where some of these guys in the reserves are really just knocking the door down. They had some big games on the weekend, and there's a couple of vulnerable spots in our team, even though we got the win on the weekend as well. Does Nix have it in to make any changes, or do we just go with the same team again? I'll be curious to see. But in terms of the actual matchup itself, they bring a lot of heat in the midfield. I know Oliver's only just okay these days, but he's still okay. And Petrarca has killed us in the past, even though he's not going 100% now. Max Gawn is someone we really struggled against, and hopefully Rob's newfound confidence and form can mitigate that somewhat. But they just don't have a forward line to kick to. Cozzy's their best forward, but he's almost their best midfielder as well at the moment. If we can, hopefully, especially given it's wet, that will sort of pretty much make I'd really think they'd struggle to kick a score against us that should win a game. The question is, can we one, match them in the midfield, and two, if it's wet, do we have enough? Do our forwards going to get the job done up there? Because I think that if it was a dry day, I'd be more confident. I think it might bring us back to their level a little bit if there's a lot of rain.
Yeah, it will.
So it could be a bit of a scrap, but you hope we get the job done. And I don't really care about the margin in this one. Today I wanted a big win. Melbourne's a team that's been a bogey side for a while, so I just want to get the 4 points and move on.
I'd like to see Pedler come in for Murphy if he's fit, because he was only removed from the side because of injury. So by rights, he should come straight back in if he's got over that corky. I don't see too much else happening though. This one, traditionally, Brownie, for me, is a danger game because Adelaide teams have a tendency to become complacent after easy wins where they've had the game their own way. And that's exactly what we had today. And I think our game relies on winning the contest. And if we don't hit the contest at 100%, we could find ourselves not getting enough ball to service our forward line.
Yeah, I think Melbourne are a bit of a schizo side. They've a couple of times this year they've come up and put up fantastic efforts when they looked like they were the week before they were bloody terrible. Yeah. They can turn it around really quickly. I think the interesting thing for us is going to be our defence. If we play a tall defence, I think they're really only dangerous forwards are their smalls. So how we match up on them, are we going to be too top heavy is the only thing, depending on how they go selection wise. But they may elect to stay small because they know it might be their one advantage against us. So I think selection is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's really astute because it will be a ground game, I reckon. I think the selection panel in the past has shown that they're not phased about conditions in terms of going with the three tools. But defensively, like you say, we might be a little bit top heavy potentially. Although, you got Max who can play tall or small. Worrell's not bad below his knees. Keen's not bad below his knees. The one I probably worry about is Laird. He can be a bit of a liability in wet conditions, in my opinion. But there's no chance that they'll bring Bon in to sit on, because I think we need to sit on Pickett, to be honest with you. Whether they utilise someone like Keys for that, which I think would be a waste, or whether they bring in someone like Hugh Bond to do a job, which I think would be a big ask on the back of no AFL games this season. I agree, mate. I think selection is going to be interesting, and I think Melbourne will try to get us at ground level and see if they can jag a win that way by making a bit of a scrap and getting us at ground level up forward.
Well, it's definitely their best chance, isn't it? I mean,
you would think so.
I hope that forecast is wrong. Are we talking about a lot of rain or big
0 to 5? It says 0 to 5, high chance of showers. It could be anything at this point. It's still a week away, so yeah. I'm just saying it could be wind. It could be wet.
It'll probably be 30 and dry.
Well, look, it's not guaranteed to be wet. So I mean, I do agree with what everybody said that the more rain there is, it probably evens the match up a bit more. But I'll still stick what I'm going to say. And I know that Melbourne is a bogey team for it, but I just think at the moment we're just going well enough, big man, to maybe this is the time, to just to get that second win we're talking about.
Yep. No, I agree, Backer. Like, I didn't know if you were wanted me to reply or not. I didn't want to butt it in.
Yeah, I was.
I'm sort of pushing my limits already tonight. So, look, I think that's I think these are the little steps you have to make. When you're an improving team, you have to get over these little hurdles, these mental hurdles more than anything. And I think today was one. Playing Richmond. The Essendon game was earlier in the year was winning at the MCG. Like, yeah, you expected to do it now, but even a year or so ago, we would have struggled to do these things. Another big one will be beating either Collingwood or Hawthorn because we suck against both those teams. Mm-hmm. But this is another one, yeah. Like, Demons aren't going crash hot, but on their day, like you said, like they can take it up. They beat Brisbane at the Gabba. That's something I can't imagine us ever doing. So you don't want a situation like that again. I certainly can't take them lightly. Put it that way. Their forward line is probably, I'll be honest, it's probably one of the worst in the AFL. Minus take away Cozzy, but apart from that, it's basically just Bailey Fritsch, and I know Melksham had a good game on the weekend, but he's not someone that's going to back that up too often. Apart from that, they're really poor up there. So I think, yeah, it could be a bit of a scrap, but the least you'd like to think they're not going to score a whole lot of goals against us. It's just, can we maximise our opportunities, and can we be efficient enough going up forward, like Fiend said? Because they'll have a bit of a different backup this week. Lever will definitely come in for Howes because Howes is concussed. Petty got concussed as well. So I imagine they'll bring Van Rooyen back in for him. So that's basically a tool for a tool. So, but it's if we can manage it in the midfield, I think we'll get enough shots and goal. And I don't think we'll get hurt too much the other way unless Pickett goes on one of his big games. He's had so many of them this year. You'd like to think he doesn't do it to us as well. But yeah, I'm pretty confident. Like you said, we're a different team now. We got to get these. You think we get these wins done and pretty comfortably?
Yeah, well, I'll go around the room. I don't think it'll be comfortable, actually. I think it'll be quite close, and I'd be happy with a 2 to 3 goal win. Brownie, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think 2 to 3. I think the key is going to be we've got to start well and just get the crowd involved. And if we can do that, I think we could potentially blow them away, but I'd be happy with a 2 or 3 goal win.
Yeah. Mac, what do you reckon?
I'm going to up your 2-3 and go 4-5.
Okay.
I just think that you look at the manpower versus the manpower, and it really should be a 4 to 5.
Yeah. And large male?
Large person. I will go. I think it's somewhere between 17 and 23 points. So, 3.5 goals? Hopefully.
There you go. Not too bad. Very good. Well, thank you, gentlemen. It's been a lively discussion once again. Good to be talking about an excellent win, and good to be talking about the Crows at the pointy end. Thanks to Animal for coming on and sharing his point of view and just giving us a little bit of a slap for our pessimism earlier in the year. That's fine. We can take that, mate. And, look, I think that's it. Thank you, linesman. Thank you, ball boys. We've got to watch Charles and Lando take each other out in a minute, and Oscar can just sweep through and take the Austrian Grand Prix, and then life's good.
Yep, not all.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We will have a good week, and we will see you next week. Good night.
Night, guys.
Cheers. Bye.